All right, everyone. So let's talk about the story that everyone is talking about. Let's talk about the storming of the Capitol building in D.C. by right-wing fanatics. You had hundreds and hundreds of these really radical, fanatical Trump supporters who are just absolutely loyal to Donald Trump. In fact, they are so loyal to Donald Trump that some of them rushed into the Capitol building holding the the flag of a country that doesn't exist anymore because it was destroyed by the United States. They were holding the flag of the Confederacy, the flag of a country that tried to go to war with the Union and lost. That's how loyal these people are to Donald Trump. They're so loyal, they're so fanatical, and they have these crazy ideas that they would rather revere the flag of the Confederacy than work to actually maintain harmony and peace in American society. These people are dangerous. They are subversive. They are vicious. They are violent. Many of these people were Proud Boys, and those of you who are going to say, well, not all of them were Proud Boys, yeah, I got that, but I can guarantee you that all of them tolerate the Proud Boys, that all of them don't mind tolerating jingoist groups like the Proud Boys, because to them, we're all patriots. We're all patriots, guys. Good Russian black tea. Very bitter and strong, but don't care. I only drink for mental effect of tea. But anyway, you guys know my position. You guys know what my position has been on this sort of stuff since I've been talking. I've always been against these insurrectionist types of people, be they left-wing or be they right-wing. And here is the thing, everyone. Here is the thing. For years, going all the way back to the Obama administration, conservatives and righties were talking about how the left hates the police, how the left is against the police, and they're talking about backing the blue and Blue Lives Matter, right? Remember that? Blue Lives Matter. I still see people with the bumper stickers, with the Blue Lives Matter bumper stickers, but yet they will support what happened today in the Capitol building when right-wing fanatics were clashing with the cops. Let's just watch. I went onto Twitter just now and I clicked on the video category and I just typed in clash police Capitol just to see what kind of videos I get. I see this one video. Here's one video, guys. And you can see people clashing with the cops. So you can see this one video, and then you just have all these videos here. You have all of these videos that are going on. People rushing the Capitol. And they don't mind clashing with the police. That's the thing. These people are always like, oh yeah, BLM destroys property. Here's a video of Trump supporters breaking glass, breaking property, destroying property, participating in the actual thing that they condemn the left for, and you see it. These people are completely nuts. They're completely nuts. And then you have a video of one of these guys holding the green flag of Keck. Now, when you hold the green flag of Keck, what that means is that you are an alt-right lunatic. That's literally what that means. That's what that signifies. You are an alt-right fanatic, and you believe in the idea of Keckistan, and you subscribe to the alt-right ideology. So the people in this crowd, the people in this mob, they weren't just good old Americans who are just fed up with this corrupt government. These people are fanatics. They are subversive. They are revolutionaries. They're fascistic. These people are fascist. I don't give a damn if they belong to some group calling itself the Patriot Prayer Americans, whatever nonsense. These people are fascistic. They are fascist. And I've been saying this for a while now. The right wing can and will be just as violent against the police, if not more so, than the left wing. Because the left wing says, ACAB, all cops are bastards, police, defund the police, we hate the police, blah, 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 blah. The left is really open about it. The righties come out and they're like, oh, we really support the police. Oh, we love the people in uniform, back the blue lives matter. But then when it comes to their own ideological biases, when it comes to fulfilling what they want and pursuing their objectives, if the police are standing in their way, they'll fight the police. They will fight the police. And remember what happened back during the BLM protests last year regarding George Floyd. You had all these protests. They were happening throughout the country, and they were even happening in different countries. But they were happening throughout the country, and then you had that situation in California. In Oakland, there was a police officer who was murdered during a BLM protest. Everyone, including myself, assumed, well, it must have been a BLM activist or some kind of an Antifa fanatic who shot the cop, right? Because you're in the midst of a bunch of BLMers. You got the cops there. They hate the police. Cop is dead, right? I mean, it just makes sense, right? Well, obviously, we can conclude without being far-fetched that it was a lefty who did it. And that turned out to be a false assumption. And it's based on our own projection. It's based on the filter that we put everything through, the filter in our minds that we put everything through, and that determines our perspective. It turned out that it was a right-wing fanatic who was a part of the Boogaloo movement. And the Boogaloos hate the police. They are right-wing fascists, not necessarily racist, although I'm certain some of them are racist, but they are not necessarily racist. They are more so tribalistic and jingoist. They believe in the idea of Western supremacy, just like the Proud Boys, but they also believe in being subversive and in overturning the status quo and the established government. And so they don't mind having non-white people in their ranks. Their objective is to just overthrow the state. That's what their objective is. They're just jingoistic fanatics. And the guy who murdered the police officer in Oakland was a Hispanic. And he was a veteran. He was once a part of the Air Force's Special Forces. And he knew how to use a gun. He was very dangerous. The authorities were investigating the murder, and they eventually found out where this guy lived. They went to his home. There was a gunfight. 2 officers were injured. 1 cop was murdered. The guy was a complete, just a very evil and malicious person, a very murderous person. But, if this guy was a left-wing Antifa guy, the righties would be focusing on the story. But they didn't. Once it was realized that the perpetrator was some right-wing fanatic who agrees more so with the right-wing position, then it was like, oh, hush, let's not talk about that. So I did a live video. I did a live stream with my father back in December of last year. That sounds weird to say, but it was technically last year. And someone asked me about right-wingers hating the police. And he said, do you notice righties hating cops? And I said, yeah, I do. So I said several things. I made several observations in that live stream, and I want to replay it for you guys here because what I said, and I'm not boasting or anything, but what I said was very much so on point. Not because I'm, a genius or anything. I'm certainly not a genius, but just because I've been observing these sorts of movements for years and years and years. And I have more so a feeling and a grasp as to what this movement is about. I do go by my feelings, as I do with my intelligence or with my logic. I think that both of them can live in harmony. You know, emotion and intelligence. And when you study something, you begin to have a vibe, or you begin to feel the vibe of that something. And so when you look at the movement, you can just tell by looking at it, based on your own intelligence, that there's something very off about it. It's the whole thing with your what do they call it? Your first impulses, or your gut feeling. When people say, you know, when you have that gut feeling that something isn't right, you should always pay attention to it, because it's always right. Your gut feeling is always correct. Your first impressions are always correct, actually. But I made several observations in this live stream, and I said, you know, you are going to notice more and more right-wingers hating the police. We saw it in the siege of this, not the siege, but in the storming of the Capitol. I noticed when I noticed a video. I can't find it now, but I remember seeing a video today, and it shows a group of right-wingers clashing with the cops, and one of the righties tells the police officer, you are defending a corrupt government. So the ACAB, BLMers, defund the police, Antifa crowd, they will say cops are evil because they will say that cops are evil because cops are essentially the muscle for the state, and the state is corrupt. And so because the cops are the muscle or the enforcers of state law, the cops are evil because they're part of the problem. That's basically what the argument is. You're starting to see, and you have been beginning to see, righties make the same types of arguments, that the state is corrupt, the government is corrupt. It's all ran by pedophiles. Nancy Pelosi is an evil tyrant. The Clinton administration is evil. You know, Biden is going to be president, which means that, well, we're going to have Obama as president again by proxy. And so we have to do something. You know, we have to do something to stop this. And they will start to hate the police because they're going to do protests or really riots like what we saw today, and the cops are going to defend property. The cops are going to resist them and try to stop them, and guess what? They're going to say, F the police, all cops are bastards, you guys are defending a corrupt regime. You cannot, these people want revolution. Ultimately, that's what they want. They want revolution. You cannot have revolution without going against the police. You just can't. You can't be like, oh, I love police officers, but then I want to do revolution, because cops, by the very nature of their job, are law enforcement. And so if you want to overturn the state, you also want to overturn the law. And so you're going to go against law enforcement. It's just that simple. So you're going to start seeing more and more righties hating the police. And that's really what we saw today. So play the clip. Smoking Alien has an interesting observation. He says here, this is on YouTube. He says, interesting to see the speed at which hypocrisy reveals itself this year. Seen intense hatred of police on the left, Antifa, early in the year. Now seeing conservatives against the police as oath keepers. Yes, you are correct. And I have noticed this as well. And I've talked about this as well. The term ACAB, the lefties who hate the police, they like to use the term ACAB, which is an acronym. It's ACAB, standing for all cops are bastards, which really is a vitriolic and terrible thing to say, because police officers it's one thing to say they do a lot for society, but truly police officers are an absolutely necessary and integral part of human society, and it's been that way since forever. But the term ACAB, all cops are bastards, it's also said by the skinheads. The skinheads say these things. The white supremacist, racist skinheads, they also say all cops are bastards. When we talk about these people who are like hardcore right wing, and they want to usher in some sort of utopian society where it's like, you know, women all have long dresses and everyone looks like they're from The Sound of Music, those people also will hate the police, because the police are what? What are police officers? They are the arm of the state. They are the so to speak, the gun of the state. They are law enforcement. They enforce the law. So if you want to have a right-wing revolution, you're going to have to break the law. You're going to have to break the law, which means you're going to have to go against law enforcement. So, and here's the thing, great example. This is a perfect example. Perfect example. When the Black Lives Matter protests began this summer with George Floyd, there was a number of police officers who were murdered in California. There was a police officer who was murdered in Oakland, and then everyone thought that it was Black Lives Matter. I assumed that it was Black Lives Matter. Oh, yeah, it must be Black Lives Matter. I didn't report on it, but in my mind, when I heard the story, I've automatically thought, oh, it's Black Lives Matter, right? Because the cop in Oakland was murdered in the middle of a Black Lives Matter protest. So we thought, oh, it must be BLM, right? Then there was another cop that was murdered in California. Then there was another cop. So it's like, well, I think there were 2 or 3 officers who were murdered. They were all murdered by the same guy. And he wasn't BLM. He was a Boogaloo boy. The Boogaloos are right-wing fanatics. Some of these guys are ex-military who want to do a revolution in the United States and replace it with some sort of crazy right-wing utopia. They're not necessarily racist, although some of them are openly racist. Many of them will say that they are not racist, that they want to see a certain society established irregardless of race. So blacks and whites and Mexicans can live in this utopia of theirs. And the guy who killed the cops was Hispanic. He was an American Hispanic right-wing fanatic who was in the special forces in the Air Force, so he knew how to use a firearm, and he believed that he could use the chaos of the BLM protests as an opportunity to promote revolution against the state. So he murdered a police officer in the BLM protest, and then when the cops found his house, there was a gunfight, and he managed to kill one officer and he injured 2 other officers. So this guy was extremely dangerous. But this is an example of a right-wing fanatic who hates the police. So yes, expect to see more and more righties come out against the police. I think that's very real. I think Black Lives Matter is nothing in comparison to the right-wing surge that is growing in the world. It's nothing, okay? I'm telling you guys right now, like, I am dead serious. I am dead serious, guys. Black Lives Matter is bad. Don't get me wrong. They are against the nuclear family. They're against family values. They're black lesbians. They are Marxist. I understand all that. I've done the research on BLM. I understand the leadership is all a bunch of socialist Marxists, all that stuff. Got it. But at the same time, what is Black Lives Matter promoting? Black Lives Matter is promoting anti-police sentiment amongst African Americans. What is that going to do? Ask yourself. The African American population in the United States is a minority. It is a minority. If really the only high concentration of African Americans in the country is in the cities. Once you leave the cities, you don't really see a whole lot of African Americans. So they are a minority. But the right wing in America has the ability to take entire swaths of the majority population of the United States, which is the white population, the European origin population of the United States. And it can take in a lot of people. Now, here's the thing. The Antifa protests only act as fuel for the right-wing propaganda. So all it's doing is it's polarizing the society, and it's angering one side of America that is like hardcore right-wing. They will accept authoritarianism. They will accept tyranny. They will accept despotism. They will accept even some forms of white nationalism. They will accept these ideas. They will even accept paganism and to a certain extent occultism. We've seen this plenty of times. The Nazis were full of occultists. And then on the other side, you have the left wing, which, yes, is bad, but at the same time, nowhere near as armed as the right wing. Another thing I will say is that from what I've observed, and this is even statistically proven, this statistically speaking has been proven, right-wingers, when left-wingers do violence, they'll like hit a McDonald's or something. Like that's what I've seen. Majority of terrorism in the country, by the way, is done by green terrorist, environmental fanatics. They'll attack a McDonald's, they'll spray paint the windows, things like that. But when it comes to murder, when it comes to taking human life, right-wing terrorism is actually much more murderous. Now, after seeing that, I want to show you guys something else that came to my attention today. Somebody actually sent me this photo, and I thought this was... Okay, so somebody brought this photo up to my attention. This guy has been making the rounds on the internet. He has been getting a lot of attention on the internet, but he was one of the guys who stormed the Capitol building. He's got this like Viking werewolf outfit on, got this weird hat on with the horns, and then what got my attention was the tattoos. On top of his body, he has the Valknut symbol. Valknut is 3 triangles put together, which is something that neo-pagans and neo-Nazis who love pre-Christian Germanic paganism like to use. Then underneath that, he has the like pagan Nordic tree of life. There's a term for this. It's the... Hold on a second. I'm going to look this up real quick. Nordic tree of life. It's called the Yggdrasil. Yggdrasil. I swear, some of these ancient Scandinavian terms sound so Turkic. But so he's got the Yggdrasil here. And then underneath that is a symbol that I've seen many times on neo-Nazis and fascists, and that is Thor's hammer. And he's got the werewolf thing going on, and you can tell by looking at him and the people around him what type of ideology this type of group subscribes to, generally speaking, because they don't all agree on everything. Of course, we can't say they all have the same ideology, but what I will say is that these people, they have similar ideologies. They do have differences, yes. You know, some of them may be Christian. Some of them may say, well, I'm a Christian. But at the same time, they will have ultra-nationalistic views, and they will say, even though this guy next to me is a pagan or an identitarian or some kind of a Nazi, we are going to ally together to fulfill our objective. That's what you're dealing with here. So when you have people who compromise and say, well, I don't agree with this person, even though, you know, he's a pagan and all that. I don't really agree with him because of that reason. But we both agree on overturning the state, or we both agree on getting rid of these politicians that we don't like, or we both agree on, you know, subverting the society and subverting the state in order to cause a revolution and chaos. When you have people like that, they're going to be corrupt no matter what they say. No matter what good things they say, they are going to be corrupt and evil. That's the bottom line. But going back to this photo, guys, this photo tells me everything. The guy with the red hat looks like a complete lunatic. Then you got this guy here who looks like he could be a member of Charlie Manson's The Family. And then you got the guy in the middle with the werewolf thing going on. And it just reminds me of the Jack Donovan crowd. That's what it reminds me. That's what it reminds me of. It reminds me of the Jack Donovan crowd that is just so vicious and so evil. Another thing that comes to mind is really how turbulent the 2020s already is. I mean, right in the first year of the 2020s, we had COVID and the lockdown. We still got the lockdown going on. And we just hit 2021, and this happens. The decade of the 20s is going to be one of political imbalances, fanaticism, and militarism. And these people are neo-pagans, they're Nazis, they're fascist. And that's what you're dealing with here. This is what you are dealing with. So anyway, I thought I would share my thoughts with you guys on this matter. I did not do this video earlier because I was working on finishing an article on a right-wing pedophile network that was in France. And I spent about a week researching this subject and got a lot of information out. I would recommend that you guys go to shoebot.com and read the article. It's right there on the front page. And I'll put a link underneath this video so you guys can read it. But I got this video out for you guys and hope you guys have learned something. You guys just heard some theology. God bless.